So before we get into the whole topic of risk management, we're going to talk about something that is obviously front of mind for just about everybody in the world, literally, which is global politics. It certainly has a huge influence on how we go about planning and running our businesses, and certainly any political instability, of which there's a lot of it going on right now, and changes to policies and regulations have probably even more impact on what we do and how we do it than even some of the more innovative aspects of our discussion yesterday. And who better to talk to us about world politics than Ian Bremmer. Ian is the president of the Eurasia Group. They are the leading global political risk research and consulting firm. The company has offices in New York, Washington, and London, as well as a network of experts and resources around the world. Eurasia Group provides financial, corporate, and government clients with information and insight on how political developments move markets. Ian created Wall Street's first global political risk index and has authored several books, including the national bestseller, The End of the Free Market, Who Wins the War Between States and Corporations, which details the new global phenomenon of state capitalism and its geopolitical implications. It is, like other books, on sale on our table over there. So please welcome me in inviting Ian to come up and speak to you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir. Good to see you guys. This is not my tie. University Club. You know, I remember the first time I did something at the University Club, it was back in 1998, 99. I was hosting, among others, the then Iranian Foreign Minister Kharazi. And, you know, you probably see occasionally the Iranians on television, and they wear a banded collar shirt. They do not wear a tie. We were here at the University Club, and they came in, and he was not allowed to come in without wearing a tie. And by the time I heard about this and to go downstairs and yell at these folks, he had already left, stormed off in a huff. So there was no Iranian foreign minister at that event. But the University Club soldiers on. So I am going to talk with you for about half an hour. And then I'm going to invite my good friend, known to all of you guys, Juan Pujadas, and we'll have a more interactive conversation about taking all of this and discussing risk management. But how do I discuss the world in an hour? And I think the best way to do is to start really macro and then get into some headlines. So really macro. I was just in Asia, and at the beginning of my trip, 2.5 weeks ago, I started in Beijing. And we had the president of the European Commission, president of the European Parliament, made a trip together to Beijing to try to entice, convince the Chinese to provide some support for the Eurozone crisis. And the senior official at the People's Bank of China, the PBOC, actually said publicly, "We may be poor, but we are not stupid." Now, Hu Jintao was a little bit more politic in the way he responded. He said, "We'd like to help. We want to make sure that it's multilateral," which is Chinese for no. You know, we're not going to see support from China on the Eurozone crisis. Well, what about the U.S.? You know, they're the world's largest economy, a sole superpower. Tim Geithner has shown himself very, very willing and capable to get on planes and travel with abandon to Brussels and to Poland and Germany and France and what have you, providing lots of advice. But Geithner is not writing checks. Let's be very clear. The Eurozone crisis is fundamentally different from the Asian crisis, the ruble crises, the ruble crisis, the peso crisis, in that the United States, the Secretary of Treasury, is just not playing a substantive role. And if the U.S. isn't going to play that role, who is going to play that role? Well, not the emerging markets, not an agglomeration of developed and developing, not the Japanese, they're busy. It will be the Europeans. And does that mean that Europe's going to fall apart? No, I don't believe that. We can talk about that. But It does mean that the likelihood of getting out of the crisis quickly was much lower. As a consequence, the size of the crisis, the scale of the European recession, the depth and the breadth was, of course, going to be greater. This is not just true on the economic side. It's true on the political and security side as well. If you think about Syria, again, when I was in China, Xi Jinping was in the United States, Vice President of China, soon to be President of China, meeting with Biden and with Obama and Congress. A week before his trip to the United States, the Chinese vetoed the Security Council resolution on Syria. They didn't need to veto it. They could have abstained. But it was not an issue of trying to save face before the trip to the United States. They didn't care. It wasn't relevant. That never would have happened 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it did happen this time around an issue that the Chinese did not have fundamental national security involvement on or strong national interest on. We're seeing more of that. As a consequence, the depth